You are LockedOn Braves POSTCAST, part of LockedOn Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
And hello and welcome into the Braves POSTCAST, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Grant McAuley alongside Jake Mastroianni after what was another step back for the Braves offense. It feels like they just can't seem to find that momentum, that cadence, whatever you want to call it. It just feels like they're stuck in neutral or just trying to find out exactly who they are again. I don't know. I'm out of narratives here. We're trying to figure it out. We're making it up as we go along. Not really sure which one, but either way, some frustrations, quite obviously, for the Braves again here in Washington on a Friday night, in which they had opportunities but were unable to cash in on those. Chris Sale takes a tough luck loss as the Braves fall 2-1, and the Nationals even up this 4-game weekend series at a game apiece with 2 more games to go. Obviously, we'll get into all of that. We'll preview Game 3 and a little bit about Game 4 as well as we go along. Before we get started, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta here on YouTube, subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcasts, and today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use that code LockedOnMLB, all lowercase, for a first deposit match of up to $100. Jake, as you heard there in my open, I'm not really sure that we have the explanation for it, but just when it seems like the Braves maybe get some momentum, they have some clutch hits, or they put up a big inning or a couple of big innings, they're just not able to follow up on it day to day. And that, I think, might be the essence of the most frustrating part of what the Braves have struggled through this first couple of months and now a week.
And that's why they're a 500 team. And it's why they've been a 500 team for a while now. It's just they can't get any momentum from game to game. It is you score a bunch or you score nothing. And it's just nothing consistent, except that they don't score a lot of runs. But another tough one for the Braves where, again, you thought maybe they had something going, some momentum, a chance against the Nationals team. You get good pitching, but you can't score enough runs. And you had opportunities, you had chances.
Yeah, and consistently inconsistent might be the best way to put it. And you bring up that the Braves are a 500 team, and yeah, I mean, they are. In fact, I believe they're a game under 500 now. They started the season 19-9. They are now 35-26. Not a terrible place to be by any stretch of the imagination, but when you have, I think, the expectations that the Braves have had, not just from 2023, but years past, and it needs to look a certain way, feel a certain way. You want to have some confidence in what's happening at the plate and on the mound. I think you've got the latter, and you've got it in spades, honestly, and that's a surprising thing to say when you lose your opening day starter after just 2 starts to a year. That's a different story, though. They've figured it out consistently on the mound. Another night in which Chris Sale gave you everything that he could, but the Braves bats weren't able to wake up and get anything going in numerous opportunities throughout the course of this evening. For Sale, 7 innings of 2-run ball, 10 strikeouts for him, tying his season high. He's still sitting on about a 3 ERA. A tough luck loss, just his second defeat of the season, and we'll talk more about him in a moment. Atlanta's offense, though, this is the broken record turn of events, and the runs were just hard to come by in this one. As you look at Atlanta with runners in scoring position, just 1 hit in 8 tries, 7 men left on base, and Jake, there were opportunities with nobody out and runners in scoring position, and the Braves couldn't even scratch across the 1 run, and I think that is another aspect of just how difficult it's been right now for the Braves to find the key hits.
It has been. And look, this is the team we know over the past several years now. They've really leaned heavily into the home run ball. Now, the difference last year was it wasn't a necessity. Yes, they hit a ton of home runs, but they also led the league in average, and they would pick up hits. This year's team, this year it feels like if they're not getting that home run, they really have trouble putting up those crooked numbers, putting up those big runs. And it's frustrating because, I mean, second and third, nobody out.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're going to get into it, but you got your middle of your order coming up. That has to be at least 1 run, if not more. And that's just frustrating. It wasn't just that inning. I mean, there were other times too in this game where they had chances to just score just by, making some sort of good contact, and they just couldn't do that. And that's what's so frustrating is that when you're not able to get the home runs for whatever reason, if balls aren't flying as much this year, that's fine. It's whatever. It's frustrating that keeps changing. You got to find other ways to score run. This team, I think, is still too talented. I know people are tired of hearing us say that, but it is to just be reliant on home run or nothing. There's got to be more ways to get it done, and they can't seem to do that consistently enough without the home runs. So again, it's just frustrating. I know Braves fans are frustrated. I know the players are frustrated, but at some point it's on them. They have to get it done. I mean, I know a lot of people are trying to look to the coaching staff, fire Seitzer, fire Brian Snitker. they're not the ones out there on the field.
Right.
These players are too talented. They know what they need to do to get it done. They're just not executing for whatever reason. If they're feeling the pressure because this has gone on for so long, whatever the case may be, they ultimately have to be the ones to get it done on the field. And this is just another one of those nights where they didn't, and they had the chances and the opportunities to do so.
Yeah, and I heard Brian Snitker talking about this before yesterday's game, before the opening game of this series, where he said, "Look, it does come down to guys are trying to do too much and trying to be the guy. They want to be that guy that comes through with that big hit, and for whatever reason, it's not happening. And as inexplicable as it is when it's going bad, at some point, you barrel one up, and maybe that's the one that turns you around, and you get on a good streak. But there have been far fewer good streaks for folks not named Marcell Ozuna this year than there have been those streaks where you're just wondering when it is going to turn around. And that has become an exercise in futility here for Braves fans, I'm sure, because as you mentioned, if you think that you're tired of hearing it, we're kind of tired of saying the same thing as well. But I mean, there isn't some overriding thing that you can point to and say, you know what? That's the one thing that's ailing the Braves right now, and this is the way to fix it. Because if it was that simple, trust me, the guys on the field, the guys on that coaching staff, somebody in that front office would have already taken to action and fixed it. So it kind of is what it is for the Braves right now. And what it is a very up and down performance when it comes to this offense. Now, I don't want to pick on just Matt Olson in this, but I did want to get into the second and third nobody out, first pitch pop up into foul territory. But that kind of contact, ground outs to the shortstop that can't advance the runners, pop flies that just aren't leaving the infield, those kinds of things. We're seeing an awful lot of that. And I know that the Braves' MO has been to hunt pitches, to be aggressive, and I don't want them to stop doing that or completely change that. And I don't think that Kevin Seitzer or anyone else is going to look to make wholesale changes to what their approach is. It's the execution right now, Jake, that has been lacking for the Braves, and it's been lacking for a while.
It has been. And you're right. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. They were very aggressive early in counts, hunting pitches that, they felt like they were going to get, and, didn't work for 6 innings and finally did at the end of it. And that's a lot what they did last year. I mean, last year they put up 3 or 4 runs on you in an inning, but it'd only be in 10 pitches. How many times did we see that? It's just when you got a game plan up there and you feel like, you're going to get a pitch, then yes, be aggressive and go after it. But again, it comes back to it. You got to execute it. You got to make a good swing. You got to make sure that you make decent contact with it. And easier said than done. I get it. I'm sitting here on my couch watching it. I'm not trying to hit 94 with movement.
Right.
But these guys are professionals, and they've done it, and we've seen them do it. And I think that's what's so frustrating. And, yes, you're in a spot like that and you go up there and you swing the first pitch and pop it out as a fan. It is super frustrating. But if Matt Olson, felt like he was going to get that pitch and felt pretty comfortable at it, and he did, by all means, go after it. But you got to make some good contact there. And then even Ozzy after that, I mean, he had a chance and he put the ball in play, hit it right back to the pitcher when all you had to do was hit a ground ball up the middle somewhere, and they were going to give you a run there. So it's just, again, it's approach, it's plan, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's execution. They are not making good contact in these situations. And perhaps, again, they going back to it, maybe they're trying to do a little too much, but somebody has to stay within themselves, have a good at bat, have a good swing here. You don't have to have the 3-run home run there. We just needed a ground ball up the middle, at least past the pitcher, and you couldn't get it done.
Yeah, and that unfortunately was how that inning played out. A pop fly into foul territory, a grounder right back to the mound. I mean, that was the one place you didn't want to hit it back to. And how big would that one run have been when you lose by a 2-1 score? You don't know what the opportunity would have been, both for the way that inning could have played out, in addition to how things could have played out later in the game, just to give yourself extra chances. And I know that might sound more like a threat than something to be excited about, but the longer that you keep yourself in a game, then clearly you get more chances for something to go right. And for the Braves offense, with just the 1 run on 6 hits, they actually out-hit the Nationals. If that lets you know a little bit about what Chris Sale was able to do on this night, he was extremely good. Pierce Johnson handled the other inning and pitched a scoreless frame. So the Braves got what they needed on the mound, and that's been a story all season long as well. And for as much of the consternation that the offense has created for Braves fans, I think you have to kind of look at this pitching and feel pretty good about the fact that they've been able to hold it together for as long as they have to keep the Braves in a position where, if I am correct, looking across the standings in the National League, at least as of earlier this week, the only 500 teams right now in the National League are the 3 division leaders. So the Phillies, the Brewers, the Dodgers, and the Braves. The entire rest of the National League was 500 or worse starting this week. And that's kind of a crazy thing to think about in and of itself. if it lets you know anything about the struggles, maybe National League wide. I'm not really sure what to make of that, and we're also not here to solve that on this edition of the Braves Postcast. But when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about what Chris Sale was doing on the mound, because I don't want to bury the lead on how good he was. And, of course, we'll get you set up for some of the other things that are ahead this weekend, including 2 more games in which the Braves have 2 of their veteran pitchers on the mound, and we'll be looking to take a series from the Washington Nationals with a couple of more wins. Can they do it? Can the offense step up? We'll talk about all of that as the Braves Postcast continues. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through this process. Easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Policy Genius gives you unbiased advice from licensed expert support team on hand as well. Thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head on over to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb and get your free life insurance quote and see how much you could save. That is policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. Let's jump into the line score and the box score of this one, Jake, which unfortunately for the Braves included some opportunities, but not enough runs. In fact, they didn't even get on the board until the 8th inning. Atlanta, as I mentioned earlier, 35-26, 9 games over 500, taking the loss with 1 run on 6 hits, 1 error, 7 men left on base for Atlanta. Nationals with 2 runs. Both of them came in the 4th against Chris Sale. Just 5 hits on the game and no errors for them. 4 men left on base. The winners, Jake Irvin, he tossed 6 scoreless innings against the Braves to pick up that victory, improved to 4-5 on the year. Chris Sale takes a tough luck loss, drops to 8-2. And the save goes to Finnegan, his 17th of the season. And that was what closed it out for the Nationals, who did allow that run in the 8th. It was Hunter Harvey again. And it was kind of, it was a bit of a strange play for Marcell Ozuna to get a gift double on a fly ball that was just simply lost by Jacob Young in center field. Matt Olson did come through with that run, but it was too little and too late, unfortunately, for the Braves. They did not have a 9th inning comeback, and we'll get into more of that later. But I promised to talk about Chris Sale. So, dadgummit, let's talk about Chris Sale. 7 innings, 2 runs, 5 hits, 1 walk, tied a season high with 10 strikeouts, 102 pitches, 67 strikes. Jake, this was just more of the Chris Sale that we have seen all season long, with the only the last start being the one outlier of all of that. Great bounce back effort for him.
Yeah, you knew it was kind of coming with Chris Sale. You knew he was going to come out and give you a good performance, and he did in 20 whiffs. And as you look at it on the night for all games played so far, that's the most of any pitcher in any game tonight. And unfortunately, second to that is Jake Irvin, who had 16 whiffs on the night against the Braves. After we talked about, again, I'm not trying to go back to the offense, but we talked about it. They only had 6 whiffs the night before, and now they come out with 16 against the starter and Jake Irvin. But Chris Sale, you knew last time he was going to be geared up to come into this start, ready to go. Unfortunately, did give up a couple of those runs in the 4th inning there. You know, the 2-out one is the one that just really stings to me. It's a ball up the middle. After you get, the double steal, Abrams ends up scoring on that. And then you have the 2-out single that just gets by Orlando's Arcia's glove. And that's one for me. Arcia has been outstanding defensively all year long. That's one to me with the new shift rules that you have to keep a foot on the grass. I feel like normally with a shortstop, you may be able to cheat back in the outfield a little bit. And maybe he keeps that on the grass right there and prevents a run from scoring. But either way, it sneaks through. It was hit decently hard, but that's all that Chris Sale gave up on the night, and otherwise was, just fantastic. That slider, like we've seen all year long, 15 whiffs on 22 swings against that slider. So just a great performance from him. It's just unfortunate. Brave starting pitchers, you got to put up a 0 in some of these games if you want to have a chance to win. But he certainly came out and did everything he could to give the Braves that opportunity.
Yeah, and it's a razor-thin margin of error. At least it feels that way for Brave starters. You only give up a couple of runs, and, if a ball's hit half an inch, it seems like, or a couple of inches, let's say that, this way or that way, then maybe it's a different outcome. They're certainly not getting hit hard on a regular basis. Chris Sale did his last start, but I think that might have been more of a tip of the cap to the Oakland Athletics, who came out and were pretty aggressive against the strike thrower, than it was with Sale just doing a bunch of things wrong or not being able to execute his game plan. Sometimes the other team just has your number, and that's going to happen over the course of 30-plus starts if you're a starting pitcher. But the one thing that Chris Sale does, I think, in addition to having that wipeout slider, that great strikeout stuff and good fastball, is the precision, the command, 10 strikeouts, 1 walk. That seems to be what we've been talking about just about all season long. I know Chris Sale in the month of May and moving on into this month was one of, if not the best pitchers in baseball in strikeout to walk ratio, and he showed it off again tonight.
He did, and that's something we talked about a lot with Chris Sale this season. Not only is he a strikeout pitcher, but he doesn't give up many free passes, and just 1 walk on the night. Certainly great against the Nationals team. We talked about it last night and the other week when we played them too. They're a team that puts the ball in play, and they pride themselves on making contact, wrecking havoc on the base passes. Again, they did tonight, which led to another run. And that's what they do. But Chris Sale's still able to strike out 10 and, again, get plenty of swings and misses. It's just the Chris Sale that we've come to expect. And what happened against Oakland is just still a head scratcher, because that should be a lineup that you think that he would dominate. But, that's just baseball sometimes, as they say. But he comes back out tonight, and, again, against a lineup that, puts the ball in play, able to get 10 strikeouts, plenty of swings and misses. And I think this is just the Chris Sale that we've signed up for at this point. And honestly, the Chris Sale the Braves have to have, especially with the way the offense is right now and has been for a while. You're going to need more starts like this from Chris Sale. And more often than not, I still believe these are going to lead to wins.
Yeah, they should be able to. You get 7 innings of 2-run ball from your starter. I mean, he kept them in the game. It wasn't like it was unmanageable. And again, you have to go back to the offense. Ultimately, the ball is in their court, so to speak. The Braves got nothing done with runners in scoring position until Matt Olson was able to single in Marcell Ozuna, who, as I mentioned earlier, really had no business being on base. It was just a ball that was lost in the twilight sky out there, and he was able to, it was just an opportunity where maybe the baseball gods smiled on Marcell Ozuna, but he seems to be the only guy that they're smiling at, for whatever that's worth. But Matt Olson did come through. Hunter Harvey was pumping 100-mile-an-hour fastballs up there against him. That was a really good at bat, but the Braves weren't able to follow through on that. Even in the 9th inning, Adam Duvall reached base on a drop third strike, a splitter that was about 6 inches in front of the plate. He swung and missed, but the pitch was so wild it ended up by the on-deck circle on the third base side, and the Braves got the leadoff runner on in the 9th. So again, the baseball gods are smiling or have a sense of irony. The Braves will take it. They'll take whatever they can get at this point. But Orlando Arcia immediately grounded into the double play, which neutralized that, and the Nationals were able to get out of the 9th unscathed and close out their 2-1 win. Just kind of another one of those nights for the Braves where they couldn't follow up from the previous game. And I know we talked a lot about it last night, where it's not just you got to see a bunch of quantity. You need to see 3, 4, 5 home runs a night. Don't get me wrong. That would be really great and really fun to talk about on our side as well. But you'll take the quality of hits when you need them over the quantity of hits and home runs right now. And unfortunately for the Braves, again, it's just not clicking for this offense, which has been really struggling since the month of May began and still finds itself in the middle of the pack when it comes to home run and power numbers across baseball, which is not something I thought we'd be talking about when the calendar turned to the month of June, way back in spring training when this team reported.
Yeah, that's would have been the last of my worries coming into the season, would have been the Braves putting up power numbers. But it is what it is. I mean, offense and power is down around the league, but that's still no excuse for the Braves being one of the worst in that category for the last month and a half at this point. And again, you look at the box score and you see, Michael Harris leading off had a walk. Austin Riley had a hit. Ozuna had 2 hits. Matt Olson had a hit. So, I mean, you had guys getting on. Yeah, all those guys had hard hit balls. Ozzy had 2 hard hit balls, but went 0 for 4 on the night. So it's frustrating again, because you had plenty of chances there. It's just the timely hitting, not coming through in the right spots, not being able to execute when you need to. It's just, again, just another night of frustration from this offense. At some point, they're going to have to figure it out and come together, but it's good to at least see the guys at the top of the order, getting on base, having those chances. But again, it's just not executing in the big moments when they need them.
Yeah, this may sound like a weird stat, but just kind of looking at it, it just speaks to up and down the order where there are opportunities with guys on base for every hitter in the lineup, and there were, because everyone save Austin Riley left a runner on base in this game. 3 of those left on by Marcell Ozuna, 3 more by Ozzy Albies. But again, Marcell Ozuna has come through so many times and was involved in the only run-scoring rally of the game. So eventually he found his way into the run column and helping the Braves do a little bit more, or a little bit of something at the end of the game. But yeah, this is an offense that, for whatever reason, is not able to click on a day-to-day basis or turn that into some consistency from day to day. And you're seeing games like we saw in the opener. We're seeing games like you saw in the first contest of the Boston series to open up the whole road trip. and then turn around and find the Braves scoring one or fewer runs. That's the 10th time this year the Braves have scored one or fewer runs this year. Mark Bowman of MLB.com tweeted this right after the game. Last year, the Braves did that 12 times all season. This was game number, 61 of the season for the Braves here. And a quick note, because I wrote about it and I feel like it's kind of worth throwing out. Home runs per team, per game, year over year, Jake, are down 14% on pace from last year. And the league's OPS had dropped below 700 as well through the first, 2 months and a week this year. The last time that Major League Baseball as a whole, every team in the league, and at this point, it would have been 26 teams, was 1989, the last time that it was sub 700 for the season. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's probably going to be a photo finish because that seems to be the way that offenses are trending across baseball. So it's not just the Braves. There are some things happening in Major League Baseball that look a lot different than it did a year ago.
Yeah, it's definitely something. I mean, I'm not trying to put on the conspiracy theory hat here, but something is different. I mean, the numbers from year to year are just too different, too drastic for something to have not changed. And the only thing that really could be would be the baseballs. Now, again, like I said earlier, I would assume everybody is dealing with that same thing. So it doesn't necessarily give the Braves an excuse, but They are a team that is, very reliant on that home run ball. And if those aren't coming as frequently now, then that does obviously hurt their potential. And, couldn't expect what they did last year again, obviously, either way, but you expect them still to be better than they have been at this point. But, again, like you said, it's not just a Braves problem. Offense is down around the league, but again, I'll say it until it actually happens. This team is still too talented to be as bad as they have been. And if things have changed, then it's up to them to adjust to that and find other ways to score runs. You can't just be relying on that 3-run home ball, 3-run homer coming every time. You got to be able to find other ways to score runs. But again, it is frustrating because if something's changed and nobody told anybody, I mean, that's just, again, it's frustrating for fans. It's frustrating for teams and players as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more time we can spend on it. You don't know. We can't send out a congressional committee to figure out what exactly might be going on with the validity of all of this. But either way, it just makes you wonder. And by the way, a couple of other stats on that. Lowest runs per game since 2015. Lowest home runs per game across Major League Baseball since 2015 as well. So something looks a little bit different in 2024. We'll stick a pin in that. We'll come back. We will talk a little bit more about what's coming up for the Braves this weekend as they face the Nationals on Saturday and Sunday. Still with a position to take this series, but they're going to need some good pitching, and that'll start with Charlie Morton on Saturday. We'll talk about that as the Braves postcast continues. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action and watch your favorite sports and players. Baseball season in full swing. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first-inning runs. Take your pick of more or less and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. Download the app. Use the code LockedOnMLB. You'll get a first deposit match of up to $100. That's LockedOnMLB on the PrizePicks app. All right, how about Game 3 for the Braves and the Nationals? It comes your way on Saturday afternoon, 4:05 first pitch up in Washington. It's going to be Charlie Morton on the mound Saturday. Max Fried will still go on Sunday. So, Jake, as we talked about this, the importance of the Braves starting pitchers setting the tone or at least continuing to do what they do, that's going to remain a discussion point. I mean, it's always helpful when you're getting the pitching, but they're going to need a little bit of help on the offensive side. And we're going to have to see which version of the Braves shows up on Saturday as far as the run scoring is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the question right now for this Braves team is what are you going to get out of the offense from a guy, Mackenzie Gore, who, has really done well with the strikeouts this year and did very well against the Braves last time out. 5 1/3 innings, 6 hits, no walks, 10 strikeouts. Another Nationals player that struck out 10 last time they faced him. Now, he did get a rough start his last time out, 4 1/3 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned runs against the Mets. So hopefully that continues against the Braves. But again, a good left-handed pitcher that has a lot of strikeout stuff. And that's obviously something the Braves offense has struggled with this year. But, for Charlie Morton, go out and do what you did last time. 6 innings, 1 hit, no earned. That'll certainly play, even if you're going to walk 5 amongst that. I would rather not see the 5 walks, but definitely don't love seeing him not give up a ton of hits. And again, as a Braves pitcher, you got to put some zeros up on the board. You want to have a chance to win just the way what the offense is. And he's somebody to start before that, kind of like Chris Sale. He was coming off an 8-run outing, and he came back, bounced back, and had a really good one. So, again, more often than not, we know the pitching is going to be there. The question is just, like you said, what version of this offense can we get against Mackenzie Gore, who strikes out a lot of batters? Braves have been striking out way too much as of late.
Yeah, no, that's been a problem for them more times than not, and you can just kind of add it to that list. Meanwhile, Jared Kelenic took batting practice prior to the game on Friday, was available off the bench if he was needed. In fact, he was in the on-deck circle when the game ended, which is a place where you don't get to affect the game, as I understand it. Could be back in the lineup, though, on Saturday. That would certainly be a good thing. We talked about it already, but that was an injury scare for the Braves, a couple of those up in Boston, but I think the one for Kelenic had everybody holding their breath for a couple of minutes when he tried to make that diving catch and rolled over that wrist.
Yeah, great to see him, available, and that it's nothing serious. And that, as you said, he could have played tonight if they had gotten one more batter there. And that ninth inning was frustrating there. I don't know how you feel, and we don't have to get on a tangent here. I know we're running out of time, but the drop third strike, I get it. You got to complete the play, but awarding a hitter that swings at a pitch so badly a catcher can't catch it is always kind of hit me a funny way. But either way, double play, you erased the chance for Kelenic to get a chance in this one. But again, we mentioned it. He was hitting the ball so well. I wanted to see him get back out there. So I'm glad to see this won't be an extended stay, on the bench. No, we had the situation with Riley where it went on a lot longer than we thought. But, the fact that he was in the on-deck circle tells me that he's good and going to be back. And hopefully he picks back up where he left off.
Yeah, Riley was nowhere near the on-deck circle for about 10 days. In fact, he wasn't swinging a bat. So, yeah, much better for Jared Kelenic in terms of the timetable on this one. And, yeah, as far as the drop third strike goes, I know it seems weird, but baseball is real particular about making you complete the putout, and you got to catch the ball. So, one of those weird things where I thought, hey, could a play like that be something that finally is what gets the Braves back into a game or at least a chance to tie or stay in the game? The answer was no, because the double play erased that immediately. So maybe all's well that ends well if you're a Washington Nationals player and or Washington Nationals fan on that one. Charlie Morton's going to be aiming to follow up that last start, 6 innings of shutout ball, 1 hit, the 5 walks Jake mentioned, also 6 strikeouts in that one. Another one of those, if there's going to be walks, not allowing very many hits is a good way to neutralize that. And Charlie has been pretty good this season overall. He's 3-2, 3.88 ERA as the 4th starter in your rotation, or 3rd starter, I guess, if we're going to be technical about it, though. The way Reynaldo Lopez has pitched, who really cares what the numbers are, because Chris Sale and Max Fried seem to be sharing the number 1 right now. So you've got everything you need there amongst that 4 to set that foundation for you. You do have left-hander Mackenzie Gore going on the other side, and as Jake mentioned, he had the Braves number his last time out. He's 4-5, 3.57 ERA on the season as he goes up against Charlie Morton in Game 3 of this 4-game series. First pitch at Nationals Park is at 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. That's going to bring us to the end of this edition of the Braves Postcast. As always, we appreciate you riding along with us here on the show. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube. Leave us those likes and comments. Share the show with a friend. It helps the channel grow. And make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Once again, the Braves come up short 2-1. The final score is the Nationals even up this 4-game series at a game apiece. We'll be back at you later this weekend here on the Braves Postcast. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Grant McAuley. Until next time, so long, everyone.